Good genetics can mean a lot of different things. Typically, if you say that somebody has good genetics, you'll think of the way they look. This person has good genetics because they are lean, muscular, and have a good shape. This person has bad genetics because they're skinny fat and they're shaped like a baby bird. But that is just one aspect of genetics. There's your genetics for appetite. Do you struggle to eat enough? Or do you struggle because you eat too much and you get really, really hungry? There's genetics for pain tolerance. Some people's zero RAR, some people's failure is when they feel any remote bit of pain, and some people can shut off and push way, way, way past the pain. There's genetics for grit and willpower. Some people are just able to push themselves further when there's a goal in sight. Genetics for strength, genetics for muscle building, genetics for injury risk, genetics for response to drugs, genetics for P ratio between muscle and fat gain, genetics for how much a diet affects your sleep and your energy. The list goes on and on and on. So to say that any one person has good or bad genetics is way too much of a sweeping statement. It is extremely unlikely, if not impossible, for somebody to have purely good or purely bad genetics. So this whole conversation I've been seeing online of whether Greg Doucette has good or bad genetics needs to be a lot more nuanced than Greg Doucette has good genetics, or no he doesn't, or yes he does, he's an IFBB pro, you idiot, and all that kind of stuff that we're seeing. Now the comments are probably already full of people saying of course he has good genetics, he's an IFBB pro bodybuilder, you idiot. And yes, I agree, any IFBB pro has to have good genetics for a few general things, like grit and determination to execute a plan, like for shape and muscularity and the way they look when they're lean. However, like I said, that just scratches the surface, and in my opinion, there are definitely some areas where Greg Doucette has pretty poor genetics. Let's just take a quick look at what Greg Doucette is actually mostly known for. Endless amounts of volume eating. He literally has, what, 4 recipe books now, which are purely based on eating as much food for as few calories as possible. He does hours of cardio every single day just to increase his TDEE. He is literally obsessed with the calories in foods. Automatically, by default, the lowest calorie version of something is the best one, in his opinion. And he is hugely food focused. Anybody can see that. Thoughts about food clearly occupy his mind more than is healthy. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not judging him for this by any means. There are loads of people in this camp, and I am very similar to a lot of these, or have been in the past, struggled with the same things. I'm just pointing out facts, and these facts point towards the idea that Greg Doucette has terrible genetics for being lean. Terrible genetics for being lean? How the hell does that make sense? The guy lives at 8% body fat. Yeah, exactly. That's why he has to do all of these things. That's why he is obsessed with volume and calories and cardio and all those kind of things. It's because he doesn't have the good genetics to live like that. If he had good genetics to naturally be 8% body fat, to be lean, he wouldn't be able to eat the amount of food volume that he does. If you give somebody who is naturally 8% body fat the amount of volume, the amount of spinach bowls and popcorn bowls that Greg eats, they wouldn't be able to eat it because they have tiny appetites. That's why they're lean. These people have bad genetics for gaining weight, and vice versa. Greg has bad genetics for losing weight. I think the big misconception here, why people get confused, is that they think that genetics is a hard limit on what you can actually achieve. But it's not a hard limit. In some situations, yes, it is. Like, you can only reach a certain amount of muscularity with your genetics. You can only reach a certain height with your genetics. But other things, it just makes it easier or harder. Everybody, and I mean everybody, can get bodybuilder, dick skin, lean. Just for some people, it's easier than others. It's going to be hard for everyone, but for some people, it will take heaven and earth. And some people it will just be a challenge. And this next bit isn't really related to genetics, but it's something I wanted to touch on anyway, and that is ab anxiety. Greg Doucette has it. This is a term created by Revival Fitness, and I absolutely love it. I think it is so true of so many people in the industry, and if you haven't seen his video on ab anxiety, I would highly suggest you watch it. But yes, ab anxiety. All over Greg's channel, you see fear mongering over losing your abs. If you don't have abs, you are fat. You have to have abs. The reason he eats the way he does is to keep his abs and all these things. And I don't think this is healthy for the people watching his videos. I think it creates a bad message, but I don't think Greg means that. He definitely doesn't mean it maliciously whatsoever. It's just projecting his own insecurities that he doesn't even realise that he has, in my opinion. The insecurity of losing abs is a sign in itself for bad genetics for being lean. Because if being lean was within your genetics, you wouldn't even have to think about it and you would have abs. And that now leads me on to binge eating disorders, EDs. I wouldn't necessarily say that Greg has an eating disorder, but I would definitely say that he has disordered eating or shows signs of disordered eating. Greg is a full-grown man who is closer to 50 than he is 40. Don't forget that. Is it really normal? Is it really okay for a man that is coming up to 50 for every meal to have to taste like a cheat meal, like a highly processed, hyper palatable takeaway or takeout if you're in America, or processed junk food to be jammed full of artificial sweeteners? Is that normal? What's wrong with just some actual good, wholesome whole foods? And don't get me wrong, I have no issue with these kind of recipes. God knows that I eat a lot of artificial sweeteners, but I'm also happy to sit down and eat steak and rice or potatoes and salmon or whatever it might be, because there's that balance there. And for there to be literally no balance, I don't know about that. I honestly think that his recipe books, his recipes in general, are a way of hiding an eating disorder, a binge eating disorder, because it's okay to binge because there's no consequence in terms of calories. But I don't think that makes it okay. It's just like drinking 8 cans of diet fizzy drinks like he does a day. That's not normal. Whether there's a consequence or not, there's something disordered about that. And I don't like the fact that he normalizes it and tells people it's okay. Whether you're binging on peanut butter or binging on spinach, you're still binging and it's still a problem. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because would there be that potential to binge, that desire to binge at 8% body fat, if he had good genetics for being lean? Probably not. Yes, in some cases people binge regardless of their body fat, but he has said many times that when he tried to bulk up to be as heavy as possible for powerlifting, he was struggling to eat. So that tells us that he is not that type of person. He is having these binge eating tendencies because he is so lean. And that's why he probably had bad genetics for being lean. So in conclusion, what I'm trying to say is, yes, Greg clearly, absolutely has better than average genetics, but I don't think they are as elite and incredible as he says they are himself in many videos. Without a doubt, he has an elite work ethic. He has an ability to just push and push and push and push to the goal regardless of how he feels. But he doesn't have genetics to feel good whilst doing that. He is blessed for shape, size and symmetry for bodybuilding, but he's not blessed with genetic natural tendencies of being shredded. I don't know Greg and I can't say that he has an eating disorder. I never would say that he has an eating disorder. But I believe the way that he advertises his diet and his whole way of eating and lifestyle in general is very unhealthy. I think there are disordered tendencies there, and I don't think it's good to be promoting that to the general public. If it isn't unhealthy and disordered for Greg, I think for many people in the general population watching him, it would lead to those unhealthy behaviours. He has great genetics for building muscle and bad genetics for staying lean. And that's just my 2 cents on the matter. The link in the description will take you to Progressive Physique Coaching, where you can contact me, fill out my client application form and join my roster of clients. We are making big changes, so make sure to contact me there if you are interested in pursuing your fitness goals. Thank you as always for watching. Until next one, see you later guys.